Who's ready to spill some more tea on those megachurch finances? Yes, I used to work in a megachurch. I no longer do. I'm not really sure they're a good idea. What a lot of people don't understand about megachurch finances is a couple of major expenses. All right, so utilities on these buildings are like $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month or more. And that sounds like a lot until you realize that their staff bill is way bigger. What that does is it very quickly escalates to millions of dollars required to keep the organization afloat, to keep it running. And those dollars are not just random dollars. They're people's families, right? There's a huge staff that is feeding their families off of that money. And so all of that creates this like massive weight to the organization. The thing is, these aren't for-profit companies that are set up to handle this kind of thing where they spend some more on marketing, sell some more things, and make some more money. These organizations are funded almost entirely by personal donations. And the lion's share of those donations is concentrated in like a handful of people most of the time. By handful, I mean like less than 10. So the tea. So we're having a staff party at this extremely rich person's house, and it's getting towards the end. People are starting to leave. I end up walking into a room where the owner of the house, the mega donor that is goes to this mega church, is finishing a speech that at the tail end sounded like he was defending apartheid. For those of you who aren't familiar, apartheid is systematized racism that happened in South Africa and Southwest Africa. So we get on the bus to leave the staff party from this guy's house. Yes, it's a bus. Mega churches are very weird. But I sit next to my friends who were in the room and I'm like, what was going on in there? And it turns out that the random thing that I thought he was defending apartheid was true, but that was like the least racist thing he had said. And that's as according to these people who grew up in the South. They said this was some of the most racist things they'd ever heard out loud. So at this point, I'm sort of ending my time at this mega church and really disenchanted with it, but I can't let this go. And so I talk to the senior pastor and I say, look, here's what happened. This guy said these crazy things and you need to talk to him at the very least. I mean, this is really, really bad. And the pastor said, yeah, I will totally handle it. This church was involved in all kinds of anti-racism work. I mean, it really was something that had to be addressed, not just because it was horrible, but also because it was the exact opposite of what this church stood for publicly in the community. So I check with the pastor a little while later. Hey, how did that conversation go? Oh, we didn't, we're going to schedule it, whatever. And I say, okay. Then I check with him again. Same thing, scheduling. I don't know. Then I check with the pastor again, and he's like, oh yeah, it was just a misunderstanding. At this point, I'm ready to go, and it's one of the thousands of the last straws that make me say, okay, there's nothing I can do. And then, a year later, I'm talking to a staff person, a person who works there, asking about this guy, because it's a crazy story, and they tell me that he has been promoted to the highest leadership position that a person who's not like a clergy person or a staff person can be. He's like on that level. And this is not surprising because that happened over and over again. People who had no business in the way that they lived and talked and thought, being in part of the leadership of that church, were constantly put on there, like the person who was verbally abusive to staff over and over again, or the person who told their child that they were going to kick them out unless they did conversion therapy when they came out to them, right? That happens over and over again. And the reason that it happens is because of the money. Because there is this enormous burden that the pastors and the leaders are carrying, this bill of staff and utilities. And for them, it's not just like random dollars, it's actual people. And the way it works with all of these donors giving all of this amount of money, if that person leaves, it's not just that person leaving, it's actual staff people that won't be able to feed their kids eventually. And that's how some of these leaders are processing that. And that's why they make these sort of weird moral or ethical decisions. But why didn't the staff say anything when the guy was talking about it? Well, because they're part of the same system. They have stood up for their beliefs and been criticized. They have said things to people, to some of these donors, and called them out on stuff, and then had their jobs at risk, or worse, were fired. It's a system that is built on this money problem that ends up making people do horrible things.